All right, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, I don't know how long you guys have been into watches. I got bit by the disease in 2005, and it was an Echozilla. It was 48 millimeters, a lot bigger than this 42. And I quickly got addicted to watches and was getting watches that were 52 to 62 millimeters. And by 2008, when I was at the height of my big watch phase, I would say the country in 2008, in terms of watch trends, had reached its peak in oversized watches. So I didn't have children yet in 2008. My wife and I were in Las Vegas. And I was in a watch showroom, and those watches... U-boat, that's what it was, U-boat. These watches were like 55 to 65 millimeters across the bezel. I mean, and then the crown looked like a pencil affixed to an already oversized watch. For those of you who are not, familiar with watch sizes, this watch here, this is 42 millimeters across the bezel, and this is considered a big chunky diver. And for me, someone who's acclimated to watches on a smaller scale, it's plenty big for me. Can you imagine how big 60 is? And so it's almost like you're trying too hard. And I've told you this story before. At that time, up until about 2011, 2012, about 10 years ago, I had about 60 or so watches in the size category of 50 to 60 millimeters across. And one morning, I don't know, I looked at my collection, and it was no longer the house of good tidings. It was the temple of Gollum and depression. And I just said, dude, you got to get rid of this stuff. When I was a kid, there was a cartoon called Tudor Turtle, and the dude, he would try so hard to be something that he wasn't, like me with my 65 oversized watches. But unlike Tudor Turtle, he was able to call on Mr. Wizard, the lizard. And Mr. Wizard would wave his magic wand, and he would take Tudor Turtle and he would transport him out of his predicament. I had to do this on my own, man. I had to get rid of 60 watches, and I was fast. I put them for really cheap on eBay, and I don't think it took longer than 2 or 3 months to get rid of all of those watches, and it felt good. I've never done that again. And of course, people always say, McMahon, you could have bought a Panerai. Oh yeah, that's a good way to spend your time. Look at all the nice things you could have if you didn't waste your money. Very productive. Yes, I like that. So what I would say when I looked at that oversized collection, that was a form of psychological disintegration. Oh yeah, I was guilty as charged. And this particular type of disintegration, I would call it, you're trying too hard. You're overcompensating. To give another example, in the early 2000s, remember those big rims? I mean, we all like nice big rims, like an 18 or 19-inch rim on a Honda Accord is fine. But I'm talking about a 27-inch spinner rim on a 1999 Altima, man. I mean, and then you're rocking some giant watch with some lame name. Your watch is called the Apex Predator or the Cyclops Defender or something. Yeah, that's definitely a form of disintegration where you're just trying too hard, and whatever compensation for masculinity I was looking for, there were better ways. Watch what I eat, work on my self-respect, in managing my emotions, and so on and so on. I'm not going to do a deep psychoanalysis dive. That's boring. All right. The second type of disintegration I would call reckless disregard for your life. And when I think about that, I think of Funyuns. And I think of a CEO of Frito-Lay. I was hanging out with him at my apartment pool. We were talking about Frito-Lay products. And when we got to Funyuns, he got all upset, and he goes, "Don't ever eat those, man." And you know, I've done research on Funyuns. It's not a good food. You especially should not be eating Funyuns for breakfast. You know, but it's not a really bad food. But I'm fascinated in the idea of Funyuns as being a form of disintegration, as being a form of reckless disregard for life. But if I was to look at food as an example of someone who's disintegrated, who's just given up with reckless disregard for life, I would have to look at the glazed donut breakfast sandwich that you can get, where you have you know, bacon and cheese, and then using glazed donuts as bread, or the KFC double down sandwich, where instead of bread you're using triple fried chicken patties, you know, with bacon and cheese and some kind of Thousand Island dressing sauce. You're actually going out of your way to die of a premature heart attack. It's official, and that's a type of disintegration where I call it performative nihilism. You're actually going, look how risky and dangerous I am, man. It's like a dare at that point. And Lord knows we've all eaten some crazy food in our time, but the idea of doing that all the time, that's crazy. The third type of disintegration is where you lack meaningful connection in your life, and you seek substitutes that actually make your condition worse. There are two movies about this type of disintegration. One's called Citizen Kane, where the character, he wants love in his life. He wants his mom, the unconditional love of his mom that he never had. Rosebud, and Citizen Kane, you know, he tries to buy all this stuff, zebras and llamas and mansions, and he just deteriorates, he disintegrates more and more. A more modern movie, actually it's pretty old now, Boogie Nights. Dirk Diggler has no love or connection in his life, and he tries to become famous in the adult film entertainment industry. And I'll tell you what, man, those movies are car crashes. You see a character who's messed up in the beginning, he's broken in the beginning, and he just gets more and more broken as the movie goes along. Most Americans don't want to see that movie. We want to see the Hollywood movie, like Star Wars, where you have a beautiful character transformation. Luke Skywalker, you know, he's just this little kid, and then he turns into a Jedi. That's what most of us want. The fourth type of disintegration can happen to the best of us, nice people. It's where you just lack purpose, and you succumb to apathy. You just don't have a higher purpose. You just kind of rot. You just kind of deteriorate. It's not even that we're bad as human beings, but our default setting is on the path of least resistance. So when you get married, you get into a cycle. You get into a routine. And in America, I don't know what other kind of words they have, but in America we have this very short, violent word. You're in a rut. Have you ever heard that? You're in a rut, dude. And I'd like to know what the word rut is in other languages. That would be a nice study. But when you're in a rut, you know, you've become stagnant, and you've disintegrated in that regard. You know, a lot of men, they get married because their single life was just too much disintegration. I mean, for a lot of men, marriage, they tick so many people off when they were single. Marriage is like a witness protection program, where they're just like, I'm hiding in the cave, bro. I'm not leaving anywhere, man. I'm just gonna be a good boy here. And a lot of us have gone down that road. And so all of these forms of disintegration, I think they have a couple of common qualities. I think when we disintegrate, like when I had all those watches, there's a lack of self-awareness. We don't know what's happening to us. I didn't know that I was going out of my mind with 60 watches that were so big. I didn't even look like a watch aficionado. I looked like I was trying out to be a celebrity look-alike for Hulk Hogan in Las Vegas or something. But there's a lack of self-awareness, and you know, why do we lack self-awareness? Most of us are pretty smart. I have a theory. I think most of us, and I'm guilty of this, we spend too much time judging others. And we're very insightful when it comes to judging other people. But when it comes to cleaning up our own messes, we're kind of blind, conveniently so. I think that's a problem. And The other thing I think all these forms of disintegration have is a lack of guardrails. You need guardrails in life, you know. I mean, my daughters, they want to eat chocolate cake every meal, and I got to say, hey, look, man, got to have some guardrails here. You know, my girls, they can't sleep at night if they're on their Chromebooks all day and they're in bed on their Chromebooks. And so I told them, you are not allowed to ever use your Chromebook in bed, any electronic device in bed. You got to sit at your desk if you're going to use that thing. And they're sleeping better. So guardrails. I got to give my daughters guardrails. I got to give myself guardrails. A lot of you know that a lot of us have watch addictions, and we're always trying to impose guardrails on our collection. So those are the 4 types of disintegration I've been thinking about. Let me know what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Until next time, I'm out.